Hello, Orlando City Council members. My name is Zachary Blair. I am an anthropologist who has studied urban development in Orlando for the past 10 years. I received my PhD from the University of Illinois at Chicago. I am a UCF graduate and a former Pulse patron. For the past year, as the plans for the One Pulse Foundation's private museum project have unfolded, I've worked with many others to fight against this exploitative project, including Christine Leinonen, a former attorney whose son Christopher was murdered at Pulse on June 12, 2016. Our fight has led us to the city's public records that document Pulse's code violations and unpermitted renovations and show that these illegal business decisions made by Pulse owners Rosario and Barbara Poma affected the escape and rescue of shooting victims. As a result of going through these records, the ones that are currently available, we developed a list of questions that we need your help to answer. For example, why was Pulse allowed to operate for over 10 years as a nightclub in violation of its approved conditional use? Records show that Pulse owners were not allowed to have a dance floor or charge nightly covers. They did both for over a decade and were never stopped despite documented complaints and violations. And as a reminder, most shooting victims were murdered on the dance floor that was never supposed to be there to begin with. By 2010, multiple city departments knew about Pulse's unpermitted renovations and building code violations. The city has claimed that it was working with the owners to get the building into compliance. However, this was never done. Why, for 6 years, did the city never force the club into compliance, cite or fine the owners, or shut the business down completely because of these violations? In short, why did the city not enforce its own laws when it came to Pulse? In 2010, Tim Johnson of the Permitting Division was emailed updated floor plans that showed major unpermitted interior modifications to Pulse. Why did the city never inspect the building to document the scope of the unpermitted work, which included electrical and plumbing work, to ensure that there were no life safety issues? Without building inspections, how can city officials state that there were no life safety concerns to reporters who asked about Pulse's unpermitted renovations in 2016? Why aren't there transcripts of communications from the Orlando Police Department's control centers? I question the legitimacy of any internal investigations if they have not resulted in the detailed transcription of all police communications during the shooting, specifically from the command center. I requested these and was told by the Public Records Department that there were no responsive records. Is the city aware that the floor plans provided to the media and to the FBI do not accurately reflect the interior of the building as it was on June 12, 2016? The building's second level, where hostages were trapped, was omitted from these plans. Why did Tim Johnson of the Permitting Division tell fire inspectors that new building plans of Pulse were not needed after the unpermitted renovations were discovered, overriding the Orlando Fire Department's fire inspection protocols, which require the review of updated floor plans when buildings are renovated? First responders did not have access to Pulse building plans and had to hand draw the layout of the building based on observation and verbal information collected during the active shooting. Records show Pulse's most recent 2010 building plans were never recorded in the city's official record system since they were modified through unpermitted renovations. Why didn't first responders have access to accurate and up-to-date building plans of Pulse? At what time did law enforcement seek Pulse's building plans? And what building plans were given to the OPD? And when were they given? Will the city set up a community liaison who will work with us and the public to get the answers that we need, since the city's PIOs are not answering any questions and are instead forwarding our questions to the records department, effectively squashing any efforts for transparency and accountability, as our questions are not records requests? I will provide all of our questions to you in a written format, and I'm requesting that these questions are answered and that the answers are posted on the city's Pulse Tragedy Public Records website for the public to view. With the One Pulse Foundation rapidly bloating from public and private funding, this information cannot be released quick enough. Had the city been forthcoming about these issues in the aftermath of the shooting and pursued these violations with a criminal investigation, as was done with the Station nightclub fire in Rhode Island, it is likely that local governments would not have enthusiastically supported Ms. Poma's latest entrepreneurial endeavor that exploits grieving families for her own financial gain and seeks to turn our public tragedy into a privatized spectacle. Ms. Poma earns a six-figure executive salary as CEO of the nonprofit she started after refusing to sell the Pulse property to the city of Orlando for a dignified public memorial while survivors still struggle. If the Pomas did in fact violate local laws, which public records state they did, why has Ms. Poma been entrusted to build or run anything, let alone a multi-million-dollar museum, especially when the laws she broke pertain specifically to building codes and operating a business legally? Why have local governments given her foundation millions of dollars of public funds while ignoring these very serious issues? Why has an unlawful and unqualified business owner been able to start a nonprofit that claims to represent the same mass shooting victims who are actively suing her? I am also requesting that the fees are waived from my remaining public records requests, of which there are around 20. This was a public tragedy, and the public has a right to know the circumstances surrounding Pulse's unlawful operations. The city's honesty and transparency should not be our financial burden. By the time you view this video during the June 15th council meeting, the 4-year anniversary of the Pulse shooting will have just passed amongst mass protests for racial justice and against the police. I hope that you will consider the racial dynamics at play here, that this was a tragedy that disproportionately affected Black and brown LGBTQ people, and that even after 4 years, the truth has still not been brought to light. There is only one person who is socially and financially benefiting from these hidden truths. Thank you for your help. I hope that we get these questions answered and that this information is made public. Thank you again.